continuing in our quest to look at our purpose statement. I misspoke last week, and I want you to recognize that I'm glad for the feedback, and that's what I've been asking you to do, is to give me feedback on what's being said here and also what's on the handout. So last week, Nancy said to me, you know, that purpose statement didn't come from walking in the way. It first appeared in the 1977 bylaws, and that's when it was formulated, in the 70s. Now, she wasn't sure exactly who formulated it, so I'm going to continue to ask you to tell me, to fill in the blanks for those of you who were here at that time. How did we get this thing? And what were the conditions under which we wrote this statement of purpose? Worship carries a lot of meanings. And I guess I wanted to start with what happens in a biblical way in terms of how the Bible treats and deals with worship. If we look at worship in the Hebrew Scriptures, we find people falling on their faces, prostrating themselves, crouching like dogs, or exhibiting fear. So that doesn't necessarily reflect what we do today in our worship. But it appears that the ancients would recognize little of what we do on Sunday mornings as worship. So most Christians don't fall on their faces unless overcome by emotion. We don't prostrate ourselves except as a prelude to ordination. We don't crouch like dogs, licking the master's hands or feet. We don't exhibit fear, unless you count hymn singing as an expenditure of energy. We don't work, nor do we serve God in any visible way as part of our worship service, it seems. But worship in English has a different meaning from most of the biblical metaphors. The word was formed from worth and ship. So then, worship acknowledges a condition of being worthy. Traditionally, worship meant treating another with respect or honor. And the other could be a human being, or it could be a god, or I even think it can be a thing. So, what is it we worship? And I think that one of the things that we talk about as Christians is that we are monotheistic. In other words, we worship one God. Mono means one. But I don't think we're like that. I personally believe that we can worship a lot of things. And we do worship a lot of things in our lives. I had a car I absolutely loved. It was powerful. It got me places. It put me out front. It was showy. I loved that car. Even to the point of worshiping it at times. I get the wax out. I get the buffer out. Got the vacuum out. I kept it clean and shiny. I know people who worship their homes. Not only are they glad that they have a house, not like some people who don't have homes, and they work hard at keeping the grounds free of those pesky yellow things called dandelions. They go down to the place where they can get their worship supplies. Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's. And they work hard to make sure that their house looks good. I know people who worship the ground on which their spouses walk, who will do anything and everything for their spouse, or their parent, or their child, sometimes to their detriment. Sometimes it's a difficult relationship. I know people who worship their job, who once again are pleased with the fact that they have earned the position that they have because they've worked hard. Because they have worked to the point of having something that's of value. So, are we monotheistic? I don't think so. But it certainly is a goal. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to see who God is in our lives. And as I said earlier, it's hard to see God. So we come here looking for God. Where is she? Where is he? What is the possibility of our seeing God here? Well, you see, I think it happens in a collective way. You know, we belong to this denomination called the United Church of Christ, and it came out of the Puritans of all people. You know, we've come a long way. We've come a long way. And we believe that we see God in each other. Did you bring God today? Or are you searching for God? Do you believe that you can carry in your lives and in the way you live out your lives a God who will make sense not only to ourselves, but to other people? Well, that's a hard task to think about, isn't it? Sometimes it's hard enough to just take care of ourselves, let alone think about sharing something that I have with someone. You know, it's easy to give things away. Well, usually easy to give things away. But it's harder to receive things. Okay, in the male sense, it's harder to receive things. It's harder for us as males to receive things that are being given to us. There are times when people want to give something to us and we say, no, don't need it, don't want it, don't even think about it. I'll take care of it myself, thank you. We know those times. At least I can speak for myself. But to receive God is an important thing in our lives. Marvadon is a writer and a theologian, and she talks about listening to kids saying, I want to go to church. And she replies in these ways. First of all, she says, you are the church. So going to church means that we learn how to be the church when we come here and participate. She says to the kids, we need you in worship because those who are old and tired need your smiles and your vitality. I don't know about you, but there are mornings I come on Sunday. I was ready to go out the door this morning. The sun was beckoning me. Not that I worship the sun at all, but the sun was beckoning me. But your smiles bring me back. Your engagement with me and with each other becomes one of the important factors of our being together and why we're here. She says, hey, the congregation can't get along without you. Just as your body needs every single part that we've got, you know, it works better. Fingers, hands, arms, feet, all that good stuff. The church needs every single person to make it whole. Just as I use the metaphor of the bread and communion is made up of pieces and parts of a variety of things that come together to make it a whole loaf. We are a whole loaf by the pieces and parts that we bring here to this place to worship. She goes on to say that we need the gifts of worship because we'll learn things that we didn't know otherwise. may not learn them from me. You may learn them downstairs in conversation, or in interface with a teacher, or somehow in conversation with someone else in the congregation. But we do learn things here about life and about relationships. So, if you pay attention to the readings, I said we're a lectionary church, and so by looking and reading that lectionary every 3 years, you get to hear the majority, 97% of the Bible, being read in those 3 years. So that's an opportunity. And since God seems to be infinitely incomprehensible, anything we can do to get a picture of who God is helpful. So teaching or attending worship will also help us, teach us skills for our Christian life. How to pray, how to sing, how to sit quietly in God's presence, how to study. She goes on to say, I need for you to come to worship because. Now, she talks about having had cancer, and that in the time that she was taking chemotherapy, it made her sick to sing. And she said, I needed the rest of the people in the congregation so that you can stand beside me and behind me, in front of me, and sing for me. When Dee and I were away during Holy Week, we attended a Maundy Thursday service on the Cape at a UCC church, and Dee didn't feel like singing. And it was her comment as we left the church, thank God there were others there singing for me. We don't know. We have no clue what our presence here means to another person. Today's Mother's Day, and I see some mothers and children here. Do you have a clue of what that means to mothers? We sometimes cannot measure what our presence means to somebody else. The congregation needs all the talents that you bring, whatever they are, whether you're singing hymns or doing money jobs or cleaning the church or whatever. All of those talents that you bring are necessary talents for us to function and for us to be the church together. And so even when I preach, I want it to be understandable. I want feedback from you. I want to hear whether it's making sense to you or not. And what kind of sense is it making to you? I need critique. And most importantly, God needs us here because He loves to have us here in this place called church. Whether it's our denomination, or whether it's Lady of Fatima down the street, or wherever we happen to be. Fatima, sorry. We all come together in a way to celebrate God in our lives. And to do more. And it's not just to celebrate God. So I hope I've given you enough information about what we do here. But I know that you can add things to it. And I know that you can add things that make life more vibrant and vital. And so I'm looking forward to your comments. We appreciate your ability to say yes in being here today so that we may share with each of you. Amen.